Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we don't have a special guest, but we decided that Rena and I have an important topic to talk about.
Which we don't even have a title for, right? So,
Well, then versus now.
okay. Okay, that's a good title. Then versus now.
Welcome to the Mommy Life Squad podcast where we talk about
Everything women want to hear about,
which may get controversial.
but definitely inspirational, so stay tuned.
Okay, the topic 2024 versus 2015.
Well, anything like in those days versus now. In those days,
Then and now,
yeah,
then versus now.
right. Okay, so why are we talking about this, Sikva? Tell us.
Okay, so this came about, Rena and I were talking about actually like patience in general.
Yeah.
Why is our patience so low?
But it's not even just us. So we're thinking about the changes of our kids, our spouses, ourselves. Everything has changed, and I feel like everyone picked up on these changes. What's causing these changes?
Think about our kids, like on a regular basis. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. Okay, we're 5 minutes. We're gonna be home. I'm thirsty now. I'm
Yeah.
thirsty. I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
Right.
they can't wait.
Yeah.
And it's not like something that, yeah, it's a parenting thing also. It's like they have to learn to wait, but it's also in them from like nurture versus nature, I think. It's like this is the society nowadays. Everything is so instantaneous. And I know we speak about this a lot.
And
It's just disposable.
it's like everything is quick. So if it's not quick, it's not worth our time.
Right.
So, well, first of all, what causes this? Like, why is this happening? I feel like I have a thought in my mind, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Well, I know what you're gonna say, just because I know Rena so well. But
But I feel like you'll say the same thing.
so I don't think it has to do with what you have to say, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. So I mean, it's this isn't obvious. Is that everything is just so instantaneous nowadays, right? Your Amazon deliveries, it used to be like a week things would come, and you would be like waiting by the door for a week, and now it's like if it takes 2 days, you're like going crazy. My son the other day, he's like, "When's my gun coming?" He ordered like this Nerf gun or something. It's like, when's it coming? Is it coming tomorrow? Is it coming tomorrow? Is it coming tomorrow? And it's like, why is it not here yet? Why is it not here yet? And it's like, this is just what it's become. And think about like back in the day when we had, you wanted to go on internet growing up, right? And it was dial up.
Yeah, oh my
I still remember this day, Barbie.com. I wanted to go onto Barbie.com as a child.
that's funny.
And I remember sitting by the computer for like 10 minutes and the screen wouldn't load. That was just what we were used to.
Yeah.
That is the norm.
Yeah. And now we cannot fathom waiting for that. No, like it has to be quick. Even when our internet's slow, like when Tikma and I are working, we're like, why is the internet slow? Like, okay, relax. Like it's something that's become the norm.
And not only that, it's also disposable, right? You touched on that before. Everything's become so disposable.
Right.
The amount of toys our kids have, like
Yeah.
they didn't grow up with that. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's just everything's become so cheap. So it first of all breaks quickly. You think about our cars, the refrigerator, everything just breaks so quickly nowadays. But we're living in a more disposable society, and
Right.
things are just you don't have to work on it as much. It just comes.
Is it safe to say that we're all way more spoiled than we ever were?
Right.
Adults and children.
Yes.
I feel like we've all gotten to a whole new level of just being spoiled, saturated in goodies that we have and instant goodies.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and this like was leads to another thing of like what I talk about actually with a good friend of mine is that nowadays you see a rise in mental health issues. Mental health issues is on like a major rise nowadays. And why is that? Because we're living in a world that everything is so comfortable. Everything is so convenient.
And we've become
Poor people,
to that. Yeah.
poor people in this, and the homeless people are being treated better than
Yeah.
back in the day. They had like the rich people were like, that's what people talk about all the time.
Right.
How everyone is. We have so many luxuries, so many.
We're so pampered today than we ever were, and we demand it, and we're used to it. It's kind of like a comfort that we're just used to.
Right, but on the same time, the mental health issues went up because people have time to think about it. Back in the day, it was fight or flight mode, survival. Everyone was just trying to survive. My grandfather talks about, he always would say, my grandfather passed away a year ago, but he would say how we're living in Mashiach now. You guys are living in Mashiach now because
Wow.
we have food to eat. We had like food is just so readily available. For him, they would wait online for hours just for a piece of chicken.
Wow.
Like we're living in a different world, a different society, and like just we're raising different children.
Right. And by the way, I'm 10 years older than Tikva. So I should say that I really felt like, I mean, we didn't even have social media in my days. Like way back when I first got married, there was like, I didn't have Facebook. There was just Facebook, I think, when I just got married, and that was it. And even that, I feel like what's been changing over the last few years have been it's I think it like really took a toll on everyone, kids and adults, like, and in so many different facets of life. It's not just the patience level that we have, but it's also like other things. For example, like being a stay-home mom, it used to be like very normal, and it still is normal, but I feel like society views it as maybe not as normal. Like, what are you doing all day? Let's say all your kids are in school. Why can't you just be home straightening up the house? Why is that so not normal? Or am I saying this is not normal, but you wouldn't?
But I also think that at the same time, we have a lot less on our plate. Like, again, back to my grandmother's days, she would have to clean the chickens. So obviously she was a stay-at-home mom.
Like, so you're saying there's less for us to do. So then the question is, then really, why are you a stay-home mom?
Well, this is a very
I know it's such a it's a very touchy subject. I feel like this is a podcast in and of itself.
but and then again, we have more kids than back then, right? I think nowadays I think we have about this a lot. Even in the modern Orthodox world where 2 kids was the norm, nowadays, or not even the modern non-Orthodox world, but even the non-religious, 2 kids is the norm. They're having 5, 6 kids nowadays. So this is something my husband and I talk about a lot. It's like the standard of having more kids has gone up. So in the end of the day, stay-at-home mom, there's a lot for them to still be doing without cleaning the chickens and I mean we also have housekeepers nowadays. And your mom, did you have one growing up?
Right. No, we did, yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying, but
And it's less
still,
common. Like
yeah,
like
for sure.
we didn't get one till a lot later when I was older. It was a lot less common to have help in the house.
Right.
But there's so many factors of things that have changed.
Yeah.
And also, in general, our expectations of things have gone up. Growing up, going on a fancy vacation wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's just the norm. Like people do.
You mean not a big deal, meaning like it wasn't heard of?
No,
It wasn't as
yeah.
common.
Yes,
Very common.
it wasn't common.
But nowadays, it's like, where are you going for winter break? Like you have to be doing something.
And why did this all go up, Rena?
Well, okay. So I think everyone already knows this by now, but I feel like social media obviously affects everybody on a day-to-day basis without even realizing it. Like I feel like people don't realize what they're even watching and how much it's affecting them. Even just eating out, like, is way more common than it ever was because people are posting pictures of their food nonstop. Like, okay, so obviously Tip and I are very against this, and we don't want to offend anybody who's an influencer or who posts their breakfast, lunch and dinners and their amazing vacations or anything like that. But it is something that we feel definitely is affecting society on a personal level and as a whole. And I mean, I've seen it speaking with friends.
This is why, for people who don't know our Instagram world or our TikTok or our WhatsApp, we don't share.
We don't have a face and we don't have a life on there. Like you won't know what's happening in our personal lives from our social media account, which again, we've got a lot of compliments because of that, because it's really commendable. It's very hard to draw that boundary, by the way. It is.
Yeah.
We both have a lot to share. We both can share, but we choose not to because of
we
this.
know how it affects the world, and it affects everyone, like everyone on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And I was actually discussing something with Tippa earlier this morning, and she was like, if we do this, something different, but if we do this, we might cause drama. So we're very, right? You said that this morning. We're very careful. We're very careful about how we tread with our account because we grew a big following on TikTok. We don't post as much as everybody else. I mean, we barely post, but we feel like our goal is to try to get people to understand that we're giving you hacks, we're giving you tips and tricks, we're here for information. Yeah, this is a new mode of communication in 2024, and it's only going to continue this way. At some point, we're like, maybe we should stop this, remember? But like, I feel like this is the way of, I mean, like rabbis have social media, like,
Right.
Right. And I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm just saying, like, we're all like, how many people do you know who don't have social media?
But it's just the norm of what social media has created for everyone watching it. I can admit, we have Instagram on another phone. I was scrolling through one night, 11 o'clock at night, just scrolling through, and I was watching a specific woman. I'm not going to say who, beautiful, gorgeous model, but it was affecting me. I felt it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so skinny. She looks like a model, like cooking in her kitchen with heels. Like, First of all, if my
Cooks in their kitchen with heels.
right, but like that affects you just psychologically. It affects you. You're scrolling through.
Right. And people will say, "Oh no, I don't get affected by these things." I so beg to differ with that because like everything you see. By the way, I think we had this in our last podcast with Shandy Gross. She literally said, if you like the Chafetz Chaim said, if you sit in your room and you lock yourself up, just being in your room alone in our society, in our world, is going to affect you. It's going to seep in. So don't say you're on social media and it's not affecting you. That really triggers me.
Right.
And it happens to be, I always have to plug this in because I feel like it's very important to plug in that both Tikva and I'm sorry, I'm tooting our own horn here, but we both don't have it on our own device because it is so toxic. It is so toxic that we feel that it cannot even be on our phone. Sorry, I had to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just, for anyone out there who wants something to like take a step back and kind of like they want to get off of Instagram a little bit or any social media platform, WhatsApp, anything. There's an app that's called AppLock. Look into it. It's great. If you could give someone else the password so you don't have the password to it, but it's still on your phone. You just won't see it or you won't. It'll give you a limit. It's really a great tool to have.
Yeah.
But I do want to add to what Rena was saying about social media, and also our patience has gone down because why? When you're watching a 2-second reel, and whatever 15-second reel, and you keep swiping because like the first second is not interesting enough for you.
Yeah.
And by the way, as influencers, we see the other end of it.
Right.
Rena and I see the other end of it of when we create content. That first second is so important.
Right.
So we make sure that there's a hook in that first second. And all these influencers, they're trying to grab you.
Right. It's true.
They're trying to grab you in that first second. They're just trying to grab your attention so that you'll watch their content.
And we have like collaborated with people, with companies who told us they saw our content and they're like, okay, can you create a video for us? And they'll ask us to like do this new thing where you like zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, like constantly, where it makes you crazy. But unfortunately, that's what people are used to, the movement. Like you can't sit still on a face.
That affects our patience.
Yeah.
This affects our patience with everything that we do in our life.
Yeah.
The food isn't cooking fast enough. The kids are not going to sleep fast enough. They're not listening. Our patience has gone down because everything is just so quick and fast paced.
Right.
Our patience is just
Next level.
next level.
I know. I'm so sad about it. Like I feel like if we could only go back, I was telling my sister the other day, I'm like, if we could only go back to like, I don't know, like to our mom's day and age where like everything was more simple. We didn't have cell phones even. Like my mom didn't have a cell phone growing up.
So like flip phones were cool. I remember those. So
Even before that time, like we had home phones and that's it.
I even remember the day that my parents didn't even have like cell phones when we go out, and it was like, they're like, how are we gonna find them?
Right, right. And my sister was actually pointing out the other night, she's like, when we were out with mommy, we were at the park with mommy, did you ever see her? She didn't have a phone. So what was she doing on the bench? She was saying Tehillim. She was literally saying Tehillim. How many people at the park do you see saying Tehillim?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. Like, think about it.
I also think about like on airplanes, like how back in the day on an airplane ride, you would be talking to the person next to you like the whole way.
Yeah, or reading.
Or reading.
Or reading a good novel.
Yeah, now everyone's on their devices, their phones. There's Wi-Fi on the plane. Like,
It's so.
but it affects everything. It affects patience is a huge one, and it's so sad because patience is something we all really need.
Yeah, especially as moms, right?
Moms, it's something that it's like a must, and it's something that we have to work on a regular, especially nowadays. Our kids need more patience, and we have less of it.
Yeah.
They need more patience than ever before.
And we're not.
I don't have. I know myself. Like after 5 minutes of them just running out of the room, I'm like, just go to bed already. Like, you need the patience for that, or even like their homework.
Yeah.
I see with my kids. Like, I don't know about you, and you have older kids and younger kids, so I'm curious how it works for you. Like, do you feel like your older kids have more patience than your younger ones?
The older kids have more patience than the younger ones. It's a good question.
Like when you would do homework with, let's say, your oldest, and now when doing with the youngest.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a good point you're pointing out. Yeah, for sure. Because it's just it's a different bria. We're just different people. Every generation affects, the whole society at large. I feel that definitely it's something that we're struggling with. Tikva and I were talking about it this morning. We're like, why? I don't know. Like, I was putting my kids to bed and I always try to read a chapter or two. And if they're in bed by like 7:30, I could technically read like 5 chapters. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason for me to rush reading, like, if they're in bed. But I find myself like rushing through it.
Yeah.
What am I rushing for?
That's what I was thinking also the other night. I'm like, why am I rushing so much? Like, why do I rush to get you to bed?
Yeah.
I mean, I want them to be in bed for themselves.
Yeah.
For themselves, obviously, but like for me to rush out of the room,
Yeah.
like honestly, that time before bed, they want to talk the most.
Right.
Kids have so much to say.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like last night, happens to be it was late. It was like 9:30 already because it was like Hanukkah and whatever. My daughter was like, "Mommy, I just want to talk to you," and I'm like,
Oh.
"I want to talk to you too, but it's 9:30 at night." I'm like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
So sad. Actually, you know what's crazy? This past Shabbos I was reading, I'm not sure if it was the Bina or the Family First, but they were interviewing a bunch of moms. And apparently all these moms were like our mom's age. Okay. So they're like older, maybe my mom, not your mom, but my mom. So like they were interviewing them because all these women were stay-home moms and they went back into the workforce and how they felt about going back. And so like one of the moms was saying like when she was forced to go back because her husband passed away and she was the sole breadwinner of the family. She still had kids at home. Okay. Another mom said like she was empty nest. Like all her kids left the house. They were in yeshiva or married and like so she had to go work because what was she going to do with herself all day long? Story after story after story. And what I found that the underlining detail, the underlining point in all these women, they all said something that made me like choke up with emotion because and I'm being very vulnerable here by saying this, but they all said that they so looked forward to like being home when their kids got home to greet their kids because that was their life. And I don't think we feel the same way. Like, I was thinking about it, I'm like, "Oh my goodness." Like, they said they were waiting by the window for their kids to come off the school bus. Those were the words. And I was like, I I literally am like counting the minutes that I have left of my sanity till my kids come through the door. And it makes me so sad that I feel that way.
do you think number one? Do you think the kids are harder?
100%.
But maybe it's because we have less patience.
Yes. It's all a circle. It's all so a vicious cycle. Totally.
So again, I like to watch old shows, and I see these kids. They're obedient. Like
Yeah.
the minute you say something, they know they're gonna get in trouble. There's
Yeah.
gonna be like a consequence.
Yeah. And by the way, I have to point this out. This is the reason why a lot of women feel like they need to work because I was telling my husband the other night because he's very like traditional in the sense of like being home with the kids and whatever and finding the love in that, like taking them to the park, taking them to the grocery market, like and ideally that's so beautiful and so nurturing for your child. But I feel like the struggle comes from this because it's what were we saying? I totally forgot about it. What? And to bring out no, I forgot what we were just talking about something, and I was gonna point out something that's so okay, I totally lost my train of mind. But yes, this is our struggle today, and I feel like in that article that I read, I was like, "Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I was, like, waiting by the window."
Well, listen, if you didn't have anything to, let's say we didn't have our phones, we didn't have any entertainment, right? We didn't have anything to like do on our phone.
Yeah.
You don't have like they probably only had like landline phones right back then,
Uh-huh.
right? You had a book to read. You had housework.
Yeah.
Like what else is there to do but wait for your kids to come home and be excited about it, you know? And they weren't working. Like they had nothing like going on.
Right.
They weren't watching other people's lives on social media. Like they didn't it was a very simplistic lifestyle, like very simplistic. And I also think that kids were in a sense, maybe I'm wrong, easier. Um like so it was more enjoyable to have them all the time. Happens to be I feel now more that like even when the kids are off, back when my kids were younger, it was a little bit more like, "Oh my gosh, they're off. What am I gonna do?"
Yeah.
But now when they're off, I actually feel like I am enjoying it more.
But you're fine that
You're
you uh-huh, because they're older, and you're
because they're
fine.
older and I'm not able to like I mean, now that my youngest is at a hard age, that's harder, but like my other kids are older, so I feel like they're enjoying the activities we're doing together. It's just different. It's different dynamic.
Different dynamic. Okay, so for me, it's like I have a bunch of different ages. So I'm like, okay, yesterday was hard because I'm like, what am I going to do with the older ones and the younger ones? We ended up taking everybody was happy at the end of the day, but it takes a lot of planning.
Okay, so practically, what do we do?
Right. So we're here to offer you some tips and tricks and ways to like combat this challenge. We're not professionals.
No.
No, but we're moms like you who I have to say, by the way, that so it's been what, like 2 months, Tikva, since I haven't had that separate device with our account on it. So
So Rena's son's school yeshiva made
Yeah.
so she had to get rid of it, but
right. So I don't have anything at all. I have no social media on my phone, and I don't even have that separate device that we used to work off of. So I do have to say that I feel so much more content in the last 2 months, just more samech b'chalko, because I haven't been scrolling or seeing or watching. And even back then, by the way, Tikva and I are very limited to our exposure because we're so hyper focused on I feel like we're so hyper focused on the change that we see within ourselves. So we're focusing on just limiting ourselves. But even even after that, like where I totally don't have anything, I notice a change in myself.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
But
crazy.
when you stop to scroll, that the scrolling constantly, it really affects your patience.
A 100%.
It affects your ability to focus,
Yes.
patience. There's so many things it affects. If you wanna like, all for like watching. Some people need a break.
Yeah.
They need to watch something. There's other ways to do it.
Like Shark Tank, it's Queen.
I'm an old show person, but like
Okay.
if you feel like you need to like release, like not think for like a little bit, don't do it on Reels. That's our
Yep.
point. Our
Yep.
point is that Reels, they take away from your patience, and they you can't focus
And you don't
anything.
even realize it.
You
That's
don't
the
even
scary
realize it.
thing. Like nobody, like people would laugh and say, like, really? Like it's not. No, it is a big deal. And yes, it is literally killing your brain cells. It really is. Like it's really like making you feel like you need to move, move, go, go. Happens to be this whole week and last week, my daughter, like almost every night, my 16-year-old, she's like, Emo, why are you not like starting bedtime? Like why are you so relaxed? And I'm telling you now that I'm thinking back about it, I'm like, I really think because my patience has been restored. Like I'm like, okay, well, get to sleep soon. I don't know if that's like so amazing, but at the same time, I used to be like being so annoying about bedtime and like shuffling my kids into bed and rushing them, and I'm very impatient. But now I feel like there's more patience, there's more calm, there's more serenity and more happiness and contentness. Like I feel different.
So that's number one. Number two is like is in general. I don't know. Like what else can we offer?
I'm
It's
thinking like noticing the positives with our kids. I feel like we're in a generation where we're very critical because we're self-critical. Again, all this has to do with, I feel like, what we see, what we watch, what we hear. And we're critical because we don't have, right? We see what we don't have because people are like, conveying what they have amazing of and we don't have. So like that obviously affects our children too. So we're being critical of ourselves, being critical of our children, our spouses, whatever it is, but noticing the good that our kids do. It's funny. Yesterday, when we took all the kids out, we went to Malibu. My daughter said to me, my normally very negative, like more on the negative side. I have a daughter who's Baruch Hashem, very full of energy. And she said to me, Ima, this was such a special day. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever heard her say that, ever, like ever, in a sentence. And I took that time to say, do you know how happy that made my heart? Like, I wish you could say that more. I wish you could express that more. And she's like, what? What? And I was like, she knew what she said. I said, what you just said, I wish you could say that more. And I was really talking to myself because we're also negative Nancy's a lot. Like we tend to like kind of gravitate towards the negative things of our life that we want to change and fix and do better. But try to hone in on the good things that we accomplish. I made dinner tonight. Yay. Pat on the back, you know?
but it's also that we're all. I went to actually a year we were both there. Our schools, the Rabbi Weinstock was actually saying, the principal of our school, he's like, a lot of people, they look forward to retirement, right?
Uh-huh.
This is what the American dream is. We want to retire early so that we don't have to work. But really, we're here to work.
Mm-hmm.
In the end of the day, Hashem put us here in this world to work. And by us constantly looking for that moment that we don't have to work, it creates a lot of negativity in anything that you do.
Right.
Because everything is going to seem hard. Everything is going to be like, oh, I have
What a drag.
what a drag, right?
Yeah.
So he said that, and it's actually like, really important to focus on that because this American culture of like making everything as easy as possible so we don't have to work, it affects everything. It affects our marriage, it affects our parenting, it affects our, like if we don't work in our parenting, our kids first of all will be spoiled brats because
Yeah.
we're not like putting any chinuch into them. If we don't work on our marriage, it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Like everything requires work. Everything.
Yeah.
And don't look at these perfect social media
And
figures.
yeah.
They're working too. I mean, you have to work on anything.
Yeah.
You wanna lose weight, you have to work. Like
Like,
anything you want to do, it requires work. And work is important. It's an important skill that you need to have. Because without that, it's everything's gonna fail. Like
100%. 100%. And so we already gave you like 3 tips.
So just to add on the whole work thing is
Yeah.
that they say when once a person retires, that's when all the health issues come in. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because they stop working, they lose that purpose.
Yeah.
Everything starts going down the drain.
Right. So finding purpose. That's amazing.
Purpose and work, like it
Yeah.
requires work. Kids require work, and that's part of it. This is part of the process.
Right. And then I would say another thing to add on to that, and this is like a 4th tip, is just like we need to like feed ourselves physically to survive, we need to feed our spirituality. I said that very slow. Spirituality, just the same, if not even more. So like, ladies, you're taking time to get your nails done or get your sheitel done. You need to take time for your neshama. You need to take time. Tikva and I we try to go to a weekly Tuesday class. Even if you don't have the time to actually leave the house or you don't have a babysitter, whatever it is, put on Torah anytime, put on a podcast, listen to something while you're doing the dishes. Just that little like infuse throughout the week. There are women who go through months without any spirituality. Do you know what it does to you? It totally drags you down.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna plug in that we have a whole nother podcast on this if you want to find it. It's called the chat we're obsessed with or something. I don't remember the title, but if you care to know, Tikva and I are on a chat called the Bitachon chat.
Okay, we said this so many times. For people who are constant listeners, this is gonna be repetitive.
Did we?
So many times.
Really?
Every podcast, Lena brings this in, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's changed her life and my life.
Literally, like, I'm telling you, it changed, like, anyone I encounter, if they're like struggling with something, I'm like, are you on this bitachon chat? Because if you're on a bitachon journey, then it's almost like surrendering everything to Hashem. It's kind of like you're emptying your burden onto Hashem. Who doesn't want that? Why do you want to carry the baggage with you? Like, let go. It's so amazing, and I'm telling you, it's transformational.
Yes.
All right.
So with this new year, I know it's not a Jewish new year, but it's a new year, 2025. I think it's something we could all work on. Patience.
Yeah.
Being aware of how social media affects us.
Right.
Technology affects us.
Mhm.
The world around us affects us. This instant 2-hour delivery affects us.
Yeah.
Like just being aware of that so that we could work on our patience. I think it's something that is just is required as being a mother, a wife,
Right.
anyone.
Yeah.
A good worker, a good partner, anything.
Yeah.
It's just you need that.
And this is your reminder to stop being robotical, because we are robots throughout the day, throughout the week. We're moms and we have so much to juggle. We have so much to do. We're like octopuses with so many hands and wearing so many different hats. But stop and take inventory of your life. Like, I have a journal. I write in my journal just to like think about what I'm doing, where I am in this life. Like, there's so many things that don't matter that we're hyper focusing on.
Yeah.
I can tell you myself like so many different things that I'm like, I care so much about. Do we care enough about other things that are important, that are going to be, Mirza Hashem, after 120, people are going to talk about those things, not the things that we hyper focus on throughout the week. So be mindful of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, everyone. And happy New Year.
Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to our Mommy Life Squad podcast.
And stay tuned for the next episode.